Millionaire discovers hidden treasure underground. What he uncovered transformed his life forever. Jack Collins was living the dream. With his sprawling mansion in the heart of Willow Creek, a beautiful suburb painted with picket fences and blooming gardens, he had everything society told him he should want. A self-made millionaire at 49, he was the envy of many. But beneath the surface of his shiny facade, something crucial had been lost: connection to his past. Late-night meetings, business calls, and missed family gatherings left a gnawing loneliness in his heart, masked only by the wealth that filled his coffers. One blustery afternoon, while shoveling dirt for a new veterans park, one of his many philanthropic endeavors, his shovel struck something hard. Jack paused. Curiosity tingled at the nape of his neck. The thrill of discovery filled the air as he dug deeper, revealing artifacts, letters, and photographs. Each piece told heartbreaking stories of sacrifice, hope, and bravery. A sense of purpose ignited within him, and tears blurred his vision as the letters unfolded tales of soldiers who fought for freedom and family, something Jack had taken for granted for far too long. As he sifted through the cache, Jack stumbled upon letters from his long-lost uncle, a man who had vanished during a distant conflict. The heartbreak of a family torn apart washed over him. This man, this noble soul, had risked everything for a mission that had faded into silence. Jack's heart ached. Who was he to chase wealth when this courage lay buried beneath? It hit him hard. In his quest for success, he had unknowingly buried his own roots, his family. But as the dedication of the park approached, excitement spiraled into turmoil. The local historical society caught wind of Jack's discovery. They descended like vultures, eager to seize the artifacts and drive a profit out of tales that belonged to the community. Jack's pulse quickened. What was he to do? His reputation as a millionaire rose against the question of morality. Would he keep this treasure to himself, risking everything he had built? Or would he choose unity, a chance at healing the family wounds that had long festered? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As he pondered his choices, unresolved tensions bubbled up within his family. Old grievances resurfaced, jeopardizing everything. Faces of loved ones he had failed to truly appreciate came to mind. They deserved connection, healing, and a chance for reconciliation. But could he navigate this minefield while facing the historical society's greed? The stakes rose with each day, pushing family and community closer to the brink. Jack stood in the park's warmth, breathing in the scent of fresh soil as children laughed and played nearby. It was time. He took a deep breath and came to a realization about the legacy of his discoveries. These artifacts represented more than just history. They symbolized a chance to bridge gaps and write a new chapter for all involved. But as he prepared to speak at the community meeting, the weight of uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Would he choose the path of wealth or that of connection? Those questions hung heavy, bridging the past with the possibilities of a promising future. Jack stood at the podium, his heart drumming a frantic rhythm against his chest. The community hall was packed. Faces familiar and new stared back at him, their whispers creating a hushed buzz that filled the air. He cleared his throat, pushing the lump of doubt down deep before he began. "Thank you all for coming today," he started, his voice steady but laced with nervousness. The warmth of the gaze from the elderly veterans in the front row washed over him like a sea of support. "I stand before you, not just as a businessman, but as someone who has rediscovered a part of themselves that has been buried for too long." The audience leaned in, curiosity piqued. Jack felt the weight of their attention, each set of eyes expectant, eager for whatever he would reveal. He gestured toward the display of artifacts behind him, each piece a fragment of forgotten stories. These letters, these belongings, they tell tales of bravery and sacrifice from soldiers who put everything on the line. These heroes shake hands with history, and I believe it's time their stories breathe life again. He glanced down, scanning the letters with trembling anger and mournful gratitude. In my pursuit of success, I lost touch with my roots and my family. But it's never too late to choose a different path. A murmur rippled through the audience, a collective inhale as they began to feel the depth of his intent. I intend to share these artifacts. It's not just about placing them behind glass in a museum. It's about reviving connections between families, between this community. We can honor those who served by ensuring their stories live on, together. As he spoke, he saw a few heads nodding. In that moment, Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Maybe his choice wouldn't lead to loss. Maybe it would lead to healing. But then the door swung open, and a figure stepped inside, the president of the Historical Society, her presence commanding immediate attention. Ruth Everhart was a woman known for her no-nonsense attitude and typically unwavering ambition. A hush fell like a thick blanket. "Mr. Collins," she addressed him, her tone brusque as she strode toward the podium. "We need to talk business. Those artifacts hold immense value. You need to consider the significant profit you could gain from auctioning this treasure off to the highest bidder." Jack felt his stomach twist. The temptation of wealth whispered sweetly in his ear, almost capturing him. But he fought against that voice. "This is about more than profit, Ruth. This is about honoring lives that were sacrificed, not just for our freedom, but for the promise of family. We have a responsibility to share their stories together." "I won't let greed win." Ruth's expression morphed into a mix of disbelief and irritation. "And what if the community doesn't agree? What if they want a profit? You could lose everything you've built, Jack." As he locked eyes with her, determination surged through him. It was no longer just about him. This was about countless families who never had the chance to heal. "If that's the price, then so be it. I choose to stand for what's right, not just what's profitable." The tension in the room crackled like static electricity, the sense of conflict palpable. Jack could hear whispers in the crowd, uncertainty sewn into their expressions. They were divided. Some saw the potential for wealth, while others, like him, felt the pull of duty. "Jack, please think this through." Ruth pressed, her voice edged with urgency. "You could lose your place here." In that precarious moment, he knew his decision could change everything. But he stood firm, resolute against the storm brewing both inside the community and within himself. "This isn't just my choice anymore. It's yours too." The way forward was murky, uncertainty tangling around them like thick fog. But as he glanced toward the families, the veterans, those who stood for freedoms far greater than money could buy, he felt a deep, fierce resolve. He wouldn't back down. And yet, as he faced the weight of the moment, Jack wondered what if choosing integrity came at an even greater price than he imagined. Jack had never anticipated that standing up for what he believed in would feel so isolating. The quiet murmurs freshened into louder debates, breaking the fragile silence that had enveloped the community hall. He could see expressions shifting, some faces lighting up with inspiration while others darkened with skepticism. "Profit means stability, Jack." Ruth's voice sliced through the tension again. "And stability means you can help people help families." A father in the back of the hall, somewhere in his 40s, shook his head. "What about the families who could use that money now? We have veterans struggling to make ends meet, Ruth." Jack's heart sank. He thought of every story he'd read in those letters, the resilience, the dreams sacrificed for a greater cause. Could they really throw that away for a dollar sign? Can we really equate stories of sacrifice to a price tag? He challenged softly. The cash in hand won't bring back lost memories or bridge divides. As he spoke, an elderly veteran with a weathered face stood up. "When I came home, I lost my brother to the war, and I lost my way. All I had left was the memory of our shared dreams." The man's eyes glimmered with unshed tears. "Those artifacts mean more than money. They mean connection." A ripple of understanding spread across the room. Jack could see others nodding, emotion piercing through the haze of logic and greed. He felt a surge of hope. But Ruth wasn't done yet. With a furrowed brow, she stepped closer, looking very much like a storm about to break. And if we let nostalgia dictate our decisions, Jack, we'll miss out on real opportunities. The artifacts are a treasure, yes, but they can also create new futures. This wasn't just about Jack. It was entwined with their shared history, every thread pulling tight. Ruth, what future are we building? A future that forgets the past? He could feel the room listening intently, wanting to hear from both sides. It was a moment of reckoning. Perhaps there's a compromise, a voice called from the second row. A tentative woman with glasses, who had previously been silent, stood up. What if we start a community project? We can create a local museum where families can come, share their stories, and maybe even raise funds through donations? The room buzzed with fresh energy, and Jack felt gratitude swell within him. It was an idea that seemed to marry Ruth's pursuit of success with his longing for connection. Maybe they could step beyond the binary confines of money or memory and find unity. Ruth's expression shifted slightly. That could work. But we need resources, proper funding. Jack took a breath, feeling the urgency of shared purpose. We can organize events, bring local businesses into the fold. Everyone in this room has a stake in our history. Together, we can honor the past and build a future. Suddenly, Jack felt the tide turning. Dozens of voices rose with excitement, discussing plans, ideas buzzing like bees around a blossom. In that moment, he knew he'd lit a fire in their hearts, igniting a passion they had all but forgotten. But as the clamor for unity escalated into hope, an unsettling thought clawed at Jack's mind. What if the past he sought to honor had ghosts that wouldn't stay buried? And what if those stories held secrets that could unravel everything he believed? The air hung thick with possibility, and as Jack looked across the charged faces around him, he couldn't help but feel the heavy weight of their shared past looming just out of reach. What awaited them beyond this gathering? Would the truth truly set them free, or would it pull them deeper into shadows? The energy in the room transformed into a whirlwind of ideas, swiftly shifting the mood. Jack felt the adrenaline surge, his heart racing with the potential of their collective ambition. But there was still a flickering shadow at the edge of his thoughts, whispering doubts mingled with the excitement. Okay, how about we brainstorm ideas for the museum? We need artifacts, stories, volunteers. The tentative woman with glasses was back, her enthusiasm infectious. Ruth nodded, her brow relaxing, as a man near the front stood up. I've got my grandfather's medals. They're hanging on my wall, but they belong here, with the stories of our community. Jack couldn't help but smile. The more they spoke, the more the room felt alive with possibility. And we could create a digital archive, too. Families can share photos or videos of their loved ones, veterans or civilians. Let us get everyone involved. Voices bounced around the hall, wild and electric. Someone mentioned a bake sale, another suggested a car wash, and soon they were throwing around ideas with reckless abandon. It felt like a reunion of sorts, a patchwork of lives stitched together by shared courage and artistry. As stories mingled with laughter, Jack caught Ruth's eye. She looked slightly softer now, the edges of her argument blurring with the warmth that enveloped the room. But when Jack's gaze fell upon the elderly veteran, the man's earlier words echoed hauntingly. Just beneath the surface of their enthusiasm lay the unaddressed pain they'd all agreed to gloss over. He wondered if they fully understood the weight of the past, or if they were merely dipping their toes into the water, ignoring the deeper currents swirling below. Everyone. Jack cleared his throat, attempting to rein in the excitement. He felt the energy shift, becoming somewhat heavier. This project is great, but we have to tread carefully. Some of the stories tied to our artifacts, they're not just nostalgic. They're painful. Real pain. His words cut through the lightness of the moment, and silence crept back over the room. We need to ensure we recognize those stories. We must honor them, not just collect them like trophies. Ruth's expression shifted again, her brow furrowing once more. But isn't that what we're doing already? Aren't we creating something new from the old? Jack hesitated. Sure, But creating a museum or a space for remembrance won't erase the hurt. It will bring it back. A collection magnifies everything: the pride, the sadness, the loss. We can't shy away from it. That's dangerous. The weight of Jack's words settled on their shoulders. A father spoke up again, his voice steady yet trembling. What if some stories were lost forever? What if we didn't face them because we were too afraid? Can't we just go on living without digging up the past? A ripple of agreement swept through the room, faces drawn tight. Jack understood that fear. It resonated with something deep inside him. But he also knew that moving forward meant they couldn't hide. They had to engage all sides of their history, even the parts that would make them uncomfortable. They needed to confront the shadows to truly embrace the light. His heart raced yet again, realizing this was about more than a building, more than shared stories. It was about them, who they were as a collective community, and what they aimed to become. I think Jack began cautiously. We have to remember that memories heal, but they can also bring scars. We should allow space for both joy and grief. It's how we honor the legacy of those who came before, by embracing it all together. Murmurs buzzed in the room, but a pattern began to form in the flickering lights above. Jack could see the tension dance across faces, many grappling with their emotional burden, the ugly and the beautiful coexisting. And in that blend of eagerness and hesitation, Jack felt something shift within him too, an unresolved yearning to uncover the truths that lay buried within their shared past. Would they face it together? Or would the weight of history send them spiraling into silence once more? The question lingered, heavy in the air, as decisions made in that hall would echo far beyond its walls. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken thoughts. Jack felt the tension like a physical weight, pressing down on him as he scanned the room. He saw flickers of fear and uncertainty. The enthusiasm that had inflamed their ideas was suddenly at risk of being snuffed out under the gravity of truth. After what felt like an eternity, an elderly woman, someone Jack recognized from the local coffee shop, spoke up. "You're right, Jack," she said softly. "We've all lost something. My brother never came back from the war. I've kept his letters, but it's too painful to read them. What if sharing that hurt just makes it worse?" Her question lingered, echoing in the silence. Jack could see tears glistening in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," he replied gently. "But what if those letters could help someone else heal? What if your story could guide others through their pain?" The room seemed to absorb his words. Faces began to soften, reluctant barriers starting to crumble. It was a fragile moment, like tapping a glass with a spoon, hoping it would resonate rather than shatter. A younger man, charged with youthful optimism, stood up next. "My dad always told me stories about his childhood during the war. He faced unimaginable odds, yet he laughed through it all. Maybe we could find a way to mix the painful with the uplifting, show a full picture of resilience." Jack felt a surge of momentum rising again. Yes, we can create a space that reflects life in all its forms. The joy, the laughter, the heartache. His pulse quickened as he spoke, passion cutting through the heaviness. "Let us make it a community effort. What if we host storytelling workshops? Let people express both their grief and their victories?" Nods and murmurs of agreement flowed through the crowd. The room was reawakening, a phoenix rising from ashes. Jack felt a rush of gratitude for this group, their willingness to embrace vulnerability, a spark ignited in shared purpose. But then a shadow flickered again, as the elderly veteran spoke. "You're asking a lot, Jack. What if these stories bring back memories that we'd rather keep buried? What if they're too painful to face?" His voice trembled, a deep ache woven through it. Jack paused, considering the weight of those words. "That's a risk we have to take," he said carefully. "Our history isn't perfect. It's woven with dark threads too. But burying it won't make it go away. It'll just keep haunting us. We have to shine a light on those shadows." Another woman, a mother of two, raised her hand. "What if, in sharing our stories, we help our kids understand where we came from? They deserve to know the whole truth, to understand our struggles, so they never have to repeat our mistakes." In that moment, Jack saw a ripple of realization passing through the crowd. They weren't just building a museum, they were creating a refuge. A sacred space where voices could be heard, and where they could weave their legacy not by erasing the past, but by understanding it. As the discussions grew spirited once more, Jack's heart raced. Hope blossomed in sharp contrast to the earlier tension. They were shifting, evolving, facing their community's narrative head-on together. Yet, a part of him still questioned if they were truly ready to take this leap. Would they stand firm against the agitating tidal waves of memory, or would the currents pull them under? This wasn't just a project anymore. It was a journey into the depths of their souls, and he sensed the waves were only building. His eyes swept over the faces brightening with resolve, and a fresh wave of determination washed over him. Let us not just build a museum. Let us create a living memorial. A place where both the heartache and the joy can exist together. Where memories can teach us about compassion, resilience. He felt the room pulse with energy, each person becoming a thread in a rich tapestry of communal story. But as he spoke, something gnawed at him, a question that refused to fade. What if confronting all these shadows uncovered something darker than they could handle? The next chapter awaited, one that would uncover truths hidden beneath the surface. And Jack was ready to lead. But at what cost? The room buzzed with excitement as Jack's words sank in. Ideas flowed like water from an open tap. People began to suggest themes for the storytelling workshops, each a thread that could weave the collective tapestry of their experiences. Jack's heart soared at their enthusiasm, but an undercurrent of anxiety still twisted in his gut. So we could have a night of laughter, someone chimed in. A storytelling night where we share the best moments. Memories of family picnics and holidays and silly mishaps. Another voice, a younger woman whose face Jack recognized, spoke up. What about those who battled addiction? Their stories are powerful too. It's not just about the good. It's about survival. Jack nodded, appreciating these connections being forged in the room. They weren't just talking about pain. They were learning how to converse about it. How to navigate through sorrow toward hope. He couldn't help feeling a measure of pride in the faces around him. They were becoming pioneers of their own narratives. As the air filled with suggestions and excitement, an unexpected sound seeped through the buzz. A timid sob caught Jack's attention. He turned to see the elderly woman, her hands trembling, her grief breaking loose, while the floodgates of her heart opened. Something in him stirred. Her pain was raw, and it mirrored so many lives around them. Jack stepped forward slowly, gracefully. "Do you want to start?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he gestured towards her. "You could share what your brother meant to you. His letters may seem painful, but they're also a testament to love and remembrance." The woman looked up, eyes glazed with tears. I've avoided this for so long. He was my only sibling. I still have his last letter. I could never bring myself to read it all these years." A hush fell over the room, every single person leaning in, holding their breath. The collective empathy surrounded her like a quilt, warm and protective. Jack felt it, the closeness of a community beginning to form a bond stronger than he could have imagined. She wiped her tears with a trembling hand, and Jack could see the burgeoning strength behind the sorrow. "Maybe it's time," she breathed. "Maybe sharing this could help. Not just me, but everyone else holding their stories close." The resolve in her voice compelled everyone in the room, like a chorus of hope rising against despair. In that moment, vulnerability wasn't a burden. It was a gift they could share with one another. With newfound courage, she ran her fingers through her hair, composing herself. "I'll bring the letters to the first workshop," she declared, a small smile breaking through her sorrow. "Let us make this a space where everyone feels safe. I want to help others heal too." It was a simple, yet profound statement, like the sound of a bell ringing clear after a long silence. And Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him, knowing that maybe, just maybe, they were ready to embark on this journey together. But as laughter bubbled up around him, and ideas continued to flow like a fresh river long dammed, the shades of uncertainty remained. Jack knew this was only the beginning. Standing in that room filled with people willing to share their darkest depths did not negate the truth that some stories hold shadows darker than others. What else might emerge as they dug deeper into their pasts? Would some secrets begin to unravel and threaten the fragile thread of unity they were working so hard to weave? With a flutter of apprehension, he wondered, could they truly handle what was buried below their collective surface? The journey was unfolding, new paths emerging, but one thing was clear. They were ignited, eager to bring forth their stories. And so, the next meeting was just around the corner, a promise of raw truths waiting to be revealed. Who would rise to share, and what would those revelations awaken? The day of the first workshop arrived with a bright sun hanging low in the sky. Jack stood at the entrance, his heart thumping with anticipation. He had spent the night worrying about what might unfold. Would the room still radiate that initial bravery? Or would silence fall heavy on their shared stories? As the participants trickled into the space, Jack welcomed each of them, his smile wide and sincere. He noticed the elderly woman among them, her eyes sparkling with a mix of fear and determination. She clutched a stack of worn letters against her chest like a lifeline. "Thank you for coming," Jack said, noticing the way her hand tightened around the letters. "We're here to share and support each other." As more people settled into chairs, he could feel the nervous energy vibrating in the air. The first speaker was a man in his 40s, sporting a denim jacket and an easy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hey, everyone," he began, his voice shaky. "I've never done anything like this before, so bear with me." Jack leaned forward, urged on by the sound of the man's hesitant words. "I lost my dad to addiction," the man continued, eyes darting around the room as if to gauge their reactions. "I've blamed him for years. It was all I could do to make sense of it." A murmur of empathy rippled through the crowd. Jack felt a tug in his chest. "But I realized something, it wasn't just a struggle. It affected all of us. His fight became our fight. And when he died, it didn't just take him. It took a piece of me, too." The man's voice cracked, but an unexpected resilience glimmered. He took a breath, and Jack felt the room exhale with him, absorbing the moment. "I've spent so long wrestling with anger that I forgot about love. Love is what I want to hold on to now." As he spoke, Jack watched the faces in the room soften. They leaned in closer, their shared understanding through pain becoming a cocoon of support. It was a visible transformation, a shift from isolation to connection. Next in line was the elderly woman. Jack felt the slight tremble in her hands as she stood and approached the front. "I've been hiding behind my grief for too long," she started, voice low but steady. "These letters, they're all I have left of my brother. For years, I thought reading them would hurt too much. But I see now that keeping them locked away only added to my pain." As she opened the stack, whispers of rustling paper filled the air. Jack felt the ripple of the moment. "His last letter was written just days before he died," she said, wiping a tear. "He was scared, but he still held out hope. Hope for love, for understanding. I've been missing that for myself. So today, I want to share not just his troubles but his love, too." The room fell into a hushed silence as her fingers hovered over the faded ink. In that moment, Jack saw faces transform, fear, sorrow, and bravery melting into something new, something healing. But just as she began to read, a loud clap echoed against the walls, startling everyone. "What's keeping us from the real stories?" A voice called out from the back, a young man who seemed both restless and courageous. "Let us talk about the darkness, the things we hide." Jack turned, caught off guard. He felt a surge of adrenaline. Was the workshop veering off course? But the flame of curiosity lit within him, stirring excitement and dread alike. "Maybe it's time we unravel some knots," the young man pressed on, "because that's where the real treasures are." Jack's heart raced. What would come next? Would this openness lead to healing, or would it pull them into the depths of each other's sorrows? The thread of the workshop just grew tighter, and Jack felt the pull of their collective histories weaving into something greater. He closed his eyes for just a moment, breath hitching in anticipation, wondering could they handle the truths lurking in the shadows? He was ready. The group was ready. But in that fleeting silence, the questions lingered. What discoveries awaited them? What truths would emerge, forcing them to confront the parts of themselves they had long buried? The young man's challenge hung in the air, a bold demand that pierced through the fragile tension of the room. Jack took a step forward, the urge to create a space for truth overshadowing his reservations. He didn't want the participants to retreat back into their shells, but to forge ahead into the deeper waters of their experiences. "Okay, let us take a moment," he said, his voice steady and rooted. "What do you mean by the real stories?" The young man stood, his posture radiating a mix of eagerness and defiance. "I mean the stuff we hide. The fears, the failures, the regrets. Why do we always brush past them? The ugly truths can be where we find real healing." A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd. Jack's heart sank and soared at once. This was the moment where they could either stumble or leap. The elderly woman, still clutching her letters, turned her gaze from him to the young man. "You're right," she said, her voice gaining strength. "I've spent so long keeping my brother South pain close to my heart because I was afraid of facing my own." The man nodded, as if he'd ignited a spark. A woman in her 30s, who had been silent till now, leaned forward. "Exactly. I've got skeletons too. I lost my job, and the shame is just too heavy to carry. I'm terrified to admit it." Every eye in the room shifted between the young man and the woman. Jack could see the healing potential in this shared vulnerability. A whirlwind of pain and hope was brewing. "Then let us talk about it," Jack encouraged, his voice a beacon. "We're here to support each other. If we want to mend our souls, we can't shy away from the hard stuff." Like dominoes, more voices joined in. A middle-aged man shared how his fear of intimacy stemmed from childhood trauma. A young woman revealed her struggle with self-worth after a serious relationship crumbled. Each confession was like a thread, weaving everyone together into an intricate tapestry of resilience and shared humanity. As the stories flowed, Jack felt the heaviness lift. Real, raw, and unfiltered truths began to flow freely, illuminating the darkest corners of their hearts. The cacophony of emotion filled the room, and Jack embraced the energy, aware of the powerful transformation taking place before him. Yet, amidst the honesty, Jack couldn't shake the unease curling within him. What truths lay buried, unspoken, in his own heart? A churning feeling within was hinting at unresolved pain. His father's death was still haunting in memory, like a shadow at dusk. Just as he wrestled with this inner conflict, the elderly woman caught his gaze. "Jack, this space isn't just for us. It's for you too. What's keeping you from sharing?" Her piercing eyes seemed to reach deeper than his skin, evoking a vulnerability he hadn't anticipated. The room paused, eyes shifting from her to him. His heart raced, emotions wrapped in a tight grip. Could he allow himself to be so exposed? Jack felt as if time slipped away, the burden of unspoken words teetering on the edge of his lips. "Maybe," he began, voice trembling. "Maybe it's time I shared my story too." He took a deep breath, the weight of their collective histories flooding over him like a tidal wave. What would he reveal? Would his voice carry the same power he'd seen others express? As the silence deepened, a question lingered in the air. Could his unraveling lead to healing, not just for himself but for the entire room? Jack hesitated, searching for courage as the eyes around him sparked with anticipation. Jack felt the air grow thick with anticipation. Facing the crowd, he took another steadying breath. The tension wrapped around him like a vice, but deep down, he knew this moment was crucial. "I lost my father 3 years ago." His voice trembled as he spoke, chipping away at the walls he had constructed. The eyes of the room widened, urging him on. "I didn't just lose him. I lost a part of myself too." Jack could feel vulnerability rising like a tide. He clasped his hands together, avoiding the probing gazes directed his way. "He was my hero, my guide. When he passed, I felt adrift. Trying to fill that emptiness only drove me further into despair." "Sounds so lonely," whispered the young woman who had spoken before, her expression softening. Encouraged, Jack continued. "I thought I had to be strong. to take care of everyone else and keep things under control. But inside, I was crumbling. I didn't want to face the pain, so I buried it. Jack glanced around the room, catching the woman's eyes. I wish I had let myself grieve instead of pretending everything was fine.
Tears started to form.
For a moment, time held still. Everyone was hanging on to his words like they were fragile threads woven together. Jack felt weightless, like he was shedding a burden he didn't even know he was carrying. The elderly woman spoke again, her voice kind and understanding. We carry such heavy things in silence. It feels like freeing a captive spirit when we finally talk about them.
Yes.
The man who had shared his intimacy issues interjected. Talking about our truths is like bringing light into a dark room. It changes everything. Jack nodded. It does. I kept thinking if I held it all in, I could protect myself and others. But it was just me shutting myself off from the world. I missed out on so many moments because of this fear. The room was a cocoon of shared emotion. Every person seemed to resonate with Jack's story, reflecting pieces of their own hurts and hidden regrets. Vulnerability hung like a comforting blanket. As Jack locked eyes with a young man who had first stirred this conversation, a glimmer of something passed between them, a bond forged in the crucible of shared adversity. We've been so afraid to truly connect, haven't we? Jack offered, feeling a pang of hope amid the sorrow. If we stop hiding, we might discover that we're all in this together, said the middle-aged man. Together, our stories can become a source of strength, not just for us, but for anyone who feels isolated in their pain. An eagerness fluttered in Jack's chest, envisioning the space transforming into a sanctuary of healing. He looked around, taking in the brightening faces fueled by honesty, collecting threads of connection that flowed within the room. Each person had cast off their individual shackles for a moment, fusing them together in unmistakable solidarity. Yet, even as warmth and understanding grew, Jack felt a question linger on his lips. What if this was just the beginning? What if they could do more than share pain? What if we created a space, a regular meeting where we can keep doing this? Jack ventured, his heart racing once more. A place to come back and keep sharing our stories, our truths? Hesitation mixed with excitement danced on the edges of conversation. The impact of his proposition stirred the crowd. Could they really keep that connection alive? Would they embrace the potential for transformation? As the first tentative murmurs of agreement filled the room, Jack felt an exhilarating flame flicker inside him. The moment stretched out, a monumental threshold beckoning them forward together. Could they mold their sorrow into a powerful story of resilience? Could this newfound bond ignite a movement of healing in their lives? Jack's heart raced, the anticipation palpable. It wasn't just about sharing anymore. It was an invitation to grow, to evolve, to emerge transformed. What lay ahead for them now? Would they dare to take the plunge into this new chapter of their lives? The air swirled with electrifying possibilities as Jack's words settled over the room. Tentative smiles began to appear, like flowers blooming in the sun after a long winter. Jack's heart thumped wildly. He felt a connection surge between them, a palpable promise unfurling. It wasn't just a dream anymore. It was a call to action. A woman at the back of the room raised her hand. I'd love to help out. We can set themes for each gathering. We'll explore different aspects of healing and resilience. Yes. Another voice echoed, a man in his 50s who had been nodding along throughout the session. Let us invite local veterans to speak too. Their stories deserve to be heard, their struggles honored. Excitement rippled through the room as more voices chimed in, laughter and ideas soaring like kites caught in a breeze. People began exchanging phone numbers, crafting plans and pledges. Jack stood back, his heart swelling with joy. This was more than a simple gathering. Together, they were birthing a movement. Individuals who had once felt isolated were now driven by a shared mission together. They would cultivate a garden of healing. Yet, the question that lingered in Jack's mind deepened, a weighty thought like a shadow trailing behind him. Could they maintain this momentum? Would they hold on to this raw power of vulnerability even when life's challenges threatened to infiltrate their newfound sanctuary? The elderly woman, clutching her brother's letters, stepped forward, her voice trembling with emotion. Let us remember, it won't always be easy. Sharing hurts, confronting our pasts, can be painful. But that's when we lean on each other, right? Nods in agreement lit her path. Exactly. The young man chimed in again. We can create a safe space where it's okay to feel, to hurt, and to heal. No judgment, just support. Unity through vulnerability. That's our mission. Jack exclaimed, a newfound excitement flowing through him. He could see it, a vibrant community where stories stitched together lives once fragmented by pain. He imagined a routine, a rhythm they defined in honest discussion and healing. Over the next few weeks, meetings blossomed like blossoms in spring. Each gathering unveiled new stories, the fear of loneliness, the struggles with loss and addiction, the joys intertwined with sorrow. Slowly, lives began to unfurl. In one memorable session, an older gentleman whispered the softest of tales about falling in love during wartime, laughter spilling through tears. The tenderness wrapped around everyone like a warm embrace. In another, a single mother shared her journey, rising like a phoenix from the ashes of despair. That family moments, laughs shared over pizza nights, were victories too big to hide. Jack felt alive in those moments, gathering strength from every experience shared. The friendship blossomed, interwoven with a tapestry of vulnerability and strength. Their connection went beyond mere stories. It blossomed into a community that breathed life into the memories of their pasts, honoring them with fierce tenacity. But just as their bond solidified, a whisper of doubt nagged at Jack's heart. What would happen when old ghosts surfaced? Could they confront potential conflicts or painful memories that loomed like shadows on the horizon? Then the answer arrived at the next meeting. The shared tension crackled through the air as they prepared to delve into a heavier topic: loss. Jack couldn't help but share his anticipation and nervousness. This is what we built towards, friends. Facing the hard truths is how we wrestle with our pain. It will lead us to healing, I promise. As they engaged in candid conversations about grief, an unexpected wave washed over Jack. Would they remember to embrace that rawness of their pasts? Would the warmth of their bonds hold strong? An unexpected surprise occurred when the young man stood once more. I want to share my data story, he said, fire and determination in his voice. The room quieted down as he recounted the turbulent tale of addiction and how his father tried to break free but tragically lost the battle. Tears streamed down his face. Breaking from that story connected him with the room, a profound vulnerability rippling through every soul present. Jack watched in awe, heart racing, as others began sharing too. Voices leaped from whispers to melodies of sorrow, acceptance, and strength. Each tale began to reveal how interconnected their wounds were. A powerful realization dawned: this wasn't just a sharing of stories, but an emergence of healing together. Jack felt the room envelop them like a warm hug, a heart beating as one, resilient in its shared purpose. It's all part of our tapestry, Jack managed to say, his throat tight with emotion. The pain, the joy, every thread is a reminder of our journey. He paused, letting the realization sink in. If we face our stories together, we burn away the darkness. We become something so much greater. People nodded, faces transformed with resolve. Just as Jack was about to speak again, the elderly woman stood up, her gaze filled with love. And this gathering reminds us we can turn pain into power. So I want to open up a new channel where we not only share, but we help each other with local resources, counseling support, job training, whatever might lift us as a community. Cheers erupted, and Jack felt elated. They were moving towards action, not just realization. Together, they would create a lifeline not only for themselves but for the larger community surrounding them. Days turned into weeks, and the transformation rippled outward. More people began attending their gatherings. New faces brought fresh stories and collective pain. Jack understood that they weren't just healing each other's hearts, they were igniting a movement. Their sanctuary grew into a beacon of hope, illuminating the struggles that so often kept people in the dark. But Jack couldn't help but wonder, would this community withstand the storm when tougher times arrived? As they forged onward, he thought of the greater mission, the balance of vulnerability with resilience. He had to believe in their strength together, even when struggles tested their unity. In that thought, he felt the hope blossom anew. Each community member was now a part of his family. They were not just making a difference in their lives, they were undoubtedly carving a legacy that would echo through generations. As Jack prepared for the next meeting, he felt the call of something bigger. I want all of you to be part of this legacy. Let us take what we've built and spread it to those who need it most. Little did he know, this would just be the beginning of something magnificent. This is the moment. Stand together, rise together, and don't forget, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories filled with transformation like this one. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Each like can brighten someone's day. And comment below your thoughts and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. We're all in this together. You need to support this channel because true fans understand the importance of these actions. Don't wait not even one more second. Let us continue the journey.